Today on NewsWatch, refugees and national security. We'll break down the new legislation from Congress. Plus, a terror attack in Israel takes the life of an American student. We'll show you the aftermath.
And the only thing that you can hear is the scream of the other people with you in the other cells. My only request to you is to kill me before tomorrow morning.
See what happened after this Egyptian Muslim converted to Christianity and began leading an underground Christian movement. This is CBN NewsWatch. I'm Caitlin Burke. The House has passed legislation to require Syrian and Iraqi refugees to go through additional security checks before coming to the U.S. And enough Democrats have signed on to make the bill veto-proof. Dale Hurd has the story.
The yeas are 289 and the nays are 137. The bill is passed.
Responding swiftly to the Paris terror attacks, the House passed a bill to keep all Syrian and Iraqi refugees out of the U.S., at least for now. The bill requires top national security officials to personally certify that each refugee from Syria or Iraq is not a threat. That's in addition to the current screening process, which takes up to 2 years.
We will not welcome terrorists.
3/4 of them are women and children. 1/4 of them are over 60 years of age. Refugees are not the enemy.
More than 2,000 Syrian refugees already live in the U.S., but now more than 30 governors say they won't accept more.
Don't you think that common sense dictates that we should take a pause and get this right?
The White House has vowed the president will veto the House bill if it reaches his desk, but there are enough votes to override a veto. That's because the president's own party is divided about the refugee issue. 47 Democrats voted for the bill, but the bill faces a tougher road in the Senate where many Democrats oppose it. The Paris attacks have also reopened the debate over anti-terror surveillance versus personal privacy. Some Republicans, including presidential candidate Senator Marco Rubio, are pushing to extend and revise the National Security Agency's phone data collection program. But another candidate, Senator Rand Paul, opposes keeping the program going. And the technology industry is also against another possible anti-terror measure, giving the government a so-called backdoor that would let it break the encryption that keeps online messages hidden. Terrorists have used encryption to communicate privately, but it's also used to protect personal information, business activities, and so on. So the debate over privacy versus security is far from over, and the next terrorist attack may make it more intense than ever. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
In Mali, gunmen took at least 170 people hostage in the capital. A Malian army commander says 10 men stormed the Radisson Blu Hotel with guns and grenades shouting Allahu Akbar or Allah is great. They fired on guards before taking guests and employees hostage. A security source told Reuters that some hostages, including those able to recite verses of the Quran, were freed. The U.S. and French embassies are asking their citizens there to take shelter. The Radisson Blu Hotel is popular with foreigners. Israel suffered its deadliest days yet in the current wave of terror. 5 were murdered in 2 separate attacks, including an American teenager who came to study and volunteer. CBN's Chris Mitchell is at the scene of one of those attacks.
American Ezra Schwartz came to Israel to join a program co-sponsored by the Jewish Agency and the Israeli government. The head of the Jewish Agency, Natan Sharansky, found his death even more tragic because Schwartz came to be part of the vibrant Israeli experience. This is the scene of the terror attack where Ezra Schwartz and 2 others were killed. A 24-year-old Palestinian terrorist from nearby Hebron drove up in this lane of traffic and began shooting into the next lane with an automatic rifle. He killed Ezra, a Palestinian, an Israeli, and wounded 7 others. This video caught the aftermath when Israeli police surrounded the terrorist. Earlier in the day, 2 more Israelis died in Tel Aviv when 36-year-old Raed Mahmoud walked into a synagogue and began randomly stabbing worshipers during afternoon prayers. He worked in a restaurant next door. Hamas praised both of the attacks that came almost 1 year to the day after a major terror attack on a Jerusalem synagogue that killed 4 during morning prayers. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that terrorists will pay a price for these attacks, and Israeli officials continue to blame incitement by the Palestinian Authority and its political party, Fatah. Fatah recently held a rally honoring the terrorists responsible for the first 2 murders in this current wave of violence. Republican presidential candidate Ted Cruz tweeted that the Palestinian Arab terrorism is simply the same radical Islam as ISIS.
Even as Israel faces its own terror wave, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his country is standing shoulder to shoulder with France. Earlier this week, he met with the French ambassador to show his support. And Netanyahu defined the enemy that France, Israel, and the world face today: militant Islam.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and French ambassador to Israel, Patrick Maisonneuve, stood shoulder to shoulder for a moment of silence to honor the victims of the Paris terror attacks. After the Paris attacks, Israel lowered its flags to half-mast. And now here on the streets of Jerusalem, the city is flying the French tricolor. Netanyahu and Maisonneuve spoke at the Jerusalem Post diplomatic conference in Jerusalem.
Terrorism is terrorism, not only when it affects us on such a horrendous scale, also, obviously, when it hits Israel.
During a Q&A, Netanyahu defined terrorism.
Terrorism is the deliberate and systematic targeting of the innocent, of civilians, of non-combatants, for political or ideological ends. This is what defines terrorism. It's always evil.
Netanyahu said the international community often tries to make excuses for Palestinians when they attack Israel. But Netanyahu said it's all the same.
The enemy is militant Islam. Its method, so far, is terrorism. It is in the business of acquiring states. One already exists. It's called the Islamic State of Iran. And the second is being established. It's called the Islamic State of ISIS, Daesh. And with states, the Islamist militants can have a base from which to launch much greater and more lethal terrorism.
The Prime Minister said there's only one way to fight militant Islam.
What is the system to fight them? One thing. Fight them. Condemn them. Identify, condemn, fight. I am saying that you're not going to change them. You will not win them over. You will not pacify them. The only way to defeat this is the way Nazism was defeated. First you defeat, then you denazify. That's the order. That's the priority.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Israel says the U.S. government has freed convicted spy Jonathan Pollard after nearly 30 years in prison. Pollard is a U.S. citizen who is serving a life sentence for passing hundreds of classified documents to Israel. Pollard's supporters say he only tried to help a U.S. ally, while critics charge he risked U.S. foreign policy for money. A school in Utah is apologizing for a classroom assignment where students were asked to create a poster for ISIS. A first-year teacher at Salem Junior High School gave the assignment to a class of 60 ninth graders to help them understand how propaganda can mislead people. The assignment said the poster was to help students understand the goals of terrorist groups and the methods they use to gain support. The task was canceled after several parents complained. Coming up, hear the story of an Egyptian who was beaten and tortured because of his faith in Jesus Christ. Watch how this Christian convert makes it out of prison alive. Under Sharia law, women are forced to cover themselves in public, and thieves can have their hand chopped off for stealing. Still, those punishments are nothing compared to what Sharia has in store for Muslim converts. Majid Shafei knows that to be true because he was once thrown into prison and beaten within an inch of his life.
They just wanted to know who was cooperating with me, who was working with me. Telling them was not an option. Simple as that. I prefer to die.
Majid Shafei grew up in a prominent Muslim family in Egypt. But even at a young age, he struggled with Islamic beliefs and practices.
There was a lot of violence. There was no place for forgiveness. There was no sacrifice. There was no woman rights. There was no minority rights.
He was also troubled by the persecution of people in other religions, especially when he started making Christian friends in college.
I saw how peaceful they are. I saw how forgiving they are. I saw the principles and the values that they have. So I didn't understand why you want to persecute people that they are that peaceful. And I needed to know what truth that these Christians have that I was not even allowed to hear.
To get answers, Majid went to his Christian friend Tamer, who in turn gave him a Bible.
And the more that I read, the more that I saw this amazing Lord that came on earth to die for us, for our pain and sins and disease. And I saw all of his sacrifice, all his love. That's when I came to the conclusion, that's when I came to the revelation that that's the God that we should worship. That's the God that I want to follow.
Majid committed his life to Jesus Christ.
This feeling of freedom, this feeling of liberation, there is nothing like when you know that you are a child of God and you are not a slave.
Shortly after, Majid and Tamer formed an underground organization. They used caves to hide their church services and other activities.
We built one Bible school, one medical clinic, and we established, a newspaper asking from the Egyptian government to give us our rights.
The government responded by targeting the organization. One day, Egyptian soldiers discovered one of their caves and opened fire. Majid and Tamer were there.
One of the Egyptian officers aimed at me. I didn't see Tamer dead. So the officer shot, and that's when Tamer pushed me on the ground and he took a bullet and he died for me. And his last word for me was, continue the fight, never give up.
Majid escaped and continued his work. 3 months later, Egyptian police forced their way into his home and arrested him.
An officer came and he said, I need to know everything about you, who you are, who's working with you. I told him I don't know anything, I don't know what you're talking about, I don't know what organization. And he told me, you want to play tough, we can play tough together. I told him, tough is my middle name, you don't need to worry about that. Next day, they transferred me to Abu Zabal prison. For the locals, Abu Zabal prison is called hell on earth.
Trying to get information, interrogators began systematically torturing Majid.
You're underground, you're bleeding from everywhere. You're beaten, there is no even a window in your cell. It's underground, is absolute darkness. Absolute darkness. And the only thing that you can hear is the scream of the other people with you in the other cells. I really thought I would die there. Very few people came out of it alive. Very few people.
After 2 days, Majid feared he would betray his friends.
Lying down in a pool of my own blood, that was my prayer. I told him, Lord, I want to thank you for your gift on the cross. I don't regret believing in you. You died for me, and I will live and I will die for you. However, Lord, you made me out of flesh and blood. You know how weak I am. And my only request to you is to kill me before tomorrow morning.
The next day, his captors brought in dogs. Majid braced himself for the attack.
There was absolute quiet and calm. So I removed my hand away from my face just little by little, and that's what I saw. By God, all 3 dogs sitting around me, none of them moved one single step. The another 3 dogs came, sit in the same position with one little different. The middle one took a step forward and he licked my face. I got the same message that the officers got, that maybe I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. Somebody else here with me.
His interrogator returned the following day. This time, he made him an offer.
He said, you tell me the name of your friends, I will release you. I will make you witness in the case, I will release you. He listed everything that any man will desire. I looked at him, I told him, oh, that's a very good deal. I will take it. Go get me food and water, and after that we'll talk together. He said, whatever you like, I will bring it to you. I told him, shish kebab. He went, he bring an Egyptian food, I sat down, I ate. He told me, now you tell me the name of your friends. I told him, listen, we're a big group, thousands of us. I will not remember all of us. but I can give you the name of our leader. He told me, okay, give me the name of your leader. I told him the name of our leader, Jesus Christ. If you can catch him, catch him.
Retaliation was severe. Majid remembers enduring 2 more days of torture before losing consciousness, and later, waking up in a hospital. It took him months to recover, only to face charges of treason in Egypt's military court.
And I would tell you what I told the judge in this day. If loving Christ and if worshiping him is a crime, I'm guilty as charged, Your Honor. They gave me the death penalty.
Placed under house arrest, Majid waited for his execution. He was unaware that his organization had planned a rescue.
They came with arms. They was able to attack the Egyptian soldiers. They just grabbed me. And that's when we put everything in the car, crossed to Alexandria. During this time, the Egyptian police put my pictures in every newspaper, in every magazine, every TV shows. That's when my friends told me, you have to leave the country, you cannot stay any longer.
To avoid capture, he made his way east to the port city of Taba. There, he took a jet ski and navigated his way past Border Patrol boats to make it safely to Israel.
And I surrendered to the Israeli police. And through Amnesty International and United Nations, I was accepted as a landed political refugee.
Eventually, Majid made his way to Canada, where today he leads One Free World International, a human rights organization committed to helping persecuted people worldwide.
He's my Lord and my Savior, my best friend. And he walks with me wherever I go. He just walks with me. Once you know that you found him, there is nothing else matter after that. Nothing else.
Up next, International Day of the Bible is coming up. We'll show you how the Word of God is being celebrated in our nation's capital. The National Bible Association held a special Bible reading event at the nation's capital this week. They used a 1782 version of the Bible called the Atkin Bible, which is an important part of U.S. history. England had cut off all supplies to the colonies because of the Revolutionary War, so a printer named Robert Atkin received approval from Congress to print Bibles in English for the colonies. This week, several senators and congressmen read from the Atkin Bible, which was the only one ever formally approved by Congress.
Let your light so shine before men, they may see your good works, and glorify your Father which is in heaven.
A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit.
The Bible reading was meant to be a reminder that this coming Monday, November 23rd, is the International Day of the Bible. For 3 weeks, Israeli filmmakers have showcased their works in and around Los Angeles. The 29th Annual Israeli Film Festival wrapped up Thursday, and as John Wagi explains, in the future, the organizers hope to include more films about faith.
Organizers are happy with this year's turnout, and executive director of the festival, Mayor Fenigstein, says the films on display in Hollywood's backyard featured young filmmakers.
I can say in 29 years we never had so many first-time filmmakers that are, making a first feature film, and that's very interesting because you feel that there's a new upcoming industry, a new wave of younger filmmakers.
Fenigstein says the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was the dominant theme in years past, but today's films deal with Israeli culture and tell stories. And while the films about faith are growing in the U.S., they're not so popular in Israel, the cradle of both Judaism and Christianity.
I don't know why. Maybe the Israelis are not so religious, at least they're filmmakers, so this is not such a topic that they're interested.
But that may change. Fenigstein is already planning for next year's festival, the 30th anniversary, and he hopes to broaden the audience for Israel's films to include Christians.
We want to be more connected to the Christian community, and we're already there. We want to do a very special event with the Christian community to bring them in to see at least one Israeli film that will be right for them to watch, and to bring them to be close to Israel.
John Wagi, CBN News, Encino, California.
Well, the weekend is here, and so is the final episode of the Hunger Games movie series, Mockingjay Part 2. For a family-friendly movie review, we turn now to Cheryl Wilhelmy from Focus on the Family's Plugged In Online.
Welcome to the 76th Hunger Games.
In the movie The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, things pick up where the previous movie left off.
I've been watching you, and you watching me.
The brainwashed and battered PETA has been rescued, and his headstrong, arrow-slinging crush Katniss is now in full-on action mode.
Tonight, turn your weapons to the Capitol. Turn your weapons to snow.
She realizes that simply filming propaganda videos won't cut it anymore. They won't save the people of Pan Am from the clutches of President Snow. So, as Loyalist forces storm the Capitol, Katniss and her team try to take the tyrannical Snow down in person. Of course, that's easier said than done. While trying to achieve a nearly impossible mission, the good guys are beset by all manner of Capitol-created death traps and beasties. The war, informally dubbed the 76th Hunger Games, is on, and Katniss, armed with her iconic bow and arrows, can only hope that this will be the last deadly game her world will ever see. The fact is, those who haven't followed the series so far will likely be a bit lost with this final chapter. The story leaps in mid-stride and keeps going with gritty high action. As with past films in the franchise, this is the story of good people fighting the good fight against an oppressive evil. But it's also a tale of war, and that war comes at a sometimes grim price, as men, women, and children are killed by everything from bombs to zombie-like creatures. With that in mind, and for teens on up, I'm giving this final Hunger Games 3 exploding arrows out of 5 for family friendliness. For an in-depth review on this film, or anything else at your local box office, visit us at pluggedin.com. Plugging you into the movies, I'm Cheryl Wilhelmy for Focus on the Family's Plugged In Movie Review.
That's it for now on CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care about most at cbnnews.com. And tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here. We hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.